How about now? Can you guys hear me now? Can you hear me now? I see that there was no audio. Is there audio now? I see it's working on my end. Okay. Okay. Audio now. Okay. What I was saying is that I apologize for having to push the show over to today. Um, lizard people. Lizard people. Everyone's good over here. So everything's fine. It wasn't that big of a deal. Just had to push things off. Something came up last minute, but that's why we're doing it tonight. And we will also be doing another show tomorrow. Normally we do shows on Friday. So, back to our regularly scheduled program. So there is that. Oh, interesting. Okay. So thank you all once again for joining me tonight. We are going to be diving into a little bit more of Michael Aquino. I think it's worth it to take a little bit deeper of a look into him. And since we covered him on a recent episode, I figured might as well dive back in. So, hello. Yes, the reptilians. This is not a reptilian channel. I don't believe in them personally. So we're good. Audio's good. Uncle Ted's laughing. Good. Oh boy, Aquino ought to be good. No sound. Well, we got sound now. French disco. Just when you thought disco couldn't get any worse, I stand corrected. Yeah, I'm not a huge disco fan, but I am a fan of that song. So for anyone who doesn't know, that song actually, the reason I even know about it in the first place, not like I listened to a whole bunch of French music, but it actually came off of the soundtrack for Letterkenny. So that's how I know about the sound in the first place. So Zuck makes me question lizards. Yeah, Zuck and Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom actually makes me wonder if lizard people are real. Him and so Zuck, I agree with that. Gavin Newsom and probably Hillary Clinton. Although I'm pretty sure Hillary Clinton is just a witch, like a legitimate witch. But yeah, the whole like reptilian lizard conspiracy thing, I'm not a fan. I don't believe in it. It's not my thing. Eyebrows himself. Yes. Uncle Ted says ABBA hits hard. I'm actually not a fan of ABBA. My sister and my mom are a big fan of ABBA. I can't remember if my wife is or not, but yeah, I'm not a fan of ABBA. Never have been. I do like some disco, which is almost sacrilege for metalheads, but whatever. The guy really seemed to have his thumb in every evil pie. He really did. Which is why we are going to oh, that's funny. That is funny. And Hillary's husband is a devil with a blue dress on. Yeah. I've always wanted to do, and I'm probably still going to do it. So I want to take that picture from Jeffrey Epstein and I want to do just little prints, right? Just like good quality prints on canvas. But the whole reason I was going to do them is put them up on my merch page, and all proceeds from that will actually go to some charity for child abuse victims. So I'm probably still going to do that at one point, because honestly, I think the painting's great. I think it's hilarious. And how humiliating. Erica Kirk is getting Aquino eyebrows if you watch her lately. Yeah. It's Yeah. Her eyes, Kenneth Copeland eyes, all the way. All the way. Kenneth Copeland is what I see. So those piercing blue eyes, you know, they look evil as shit. So, oh my God. Hi, JC. Good to see you in the chat, bud. Good to see you in the chat. All right, enough for hellos for now, but let's just dive straight in, shall we? Let's just hit the ground running, shall we? British conspiracy theorist who was found dead on sofa in Poland was investigating an alleged U.S. Army pedophilia ring just before his death. Imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine that. So I found this incredibly interesting. The date on this is the 17th of October, 2016. Max Spires, 39, originally from Canterbury, was found dead in Poland. He had gone to the country to talk about conspiracy theories and UFOs. Medics ruled he died from natural causes, despite no post-mortem. Days before his death, he texted his mother, "If anything happens to me, investigate." His mother thinks he may have made enemies who wanted him dead. Friends claim he died in an apartment after he vomited a black liquid. What the hell? I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on with this. Oh, and the wife is chiming in. She does love ABBA. So there we go. I'm the odd one out in my house. So anyways, so with the title of this, I am just going to remind all of you that I am happy and healthy. I have no interest in harming myself or others. I am also not into anything weird that would get me in trouble with the law. So just going to throw that out there because there's some weird things that happen to people that investigate this sort of stuff. And because I'm going full bore with it, I'm just going to throw that out there. No plans on harming myself. I'm happy, healthy, not into any weird shit that would get me in trouble. So if anything ever were to happen to me, I hope all of you would raise the alarm and investigate. Because I have no plans on going anywhere. So, but let's get into this article. A British man who traveled to Poland to give a lecture on conspiracy theories was found dead in his Warsaw apartment. He was conducting an investigation into alleged pedophilia that took place in a U.S. Army-run facility in San Francisco nearly 30 years ago. Oh, I wonder who he was investigating. Yeah, I wonder who he was investigating in San Francisco 30 years ago. Max Spires, a 39-year-old father of two, was found dead on a sofa in Poland, where he had gone to give a talk about conspiracy theories and UFOs. Prior to his death, Spires texted his mother to say, "If anything happens to me, investigate," just days before his mysterious death. UFOs are another thing I actually don't believe in. We'll get into that at some point. Just real quick, my personal opinion is that the whole alien thing is actually a psyop. I don't believe they exist. What I do believe is that what we would view as aliens are actually chimeras. They are human-animal hybrids created through human experimentation. And I do believe that there are experimental like crafts that could be classified as UFOs. But I think the whole UFO thing, the UFO disclosure, it's all a way to cover up mind control. It's all a way to cover up the side effects of mind control and people coming out of their programming. So that's a little interesting side tangent that we'll definitely get into at some point, because a lot of this mind control stuff does kind of go hand in hand. Same with false memory syndrome, that sort of stuff. All of this kind of flows together with the UFO conspiracy theories. Me neither. Scientologists believe a mothership is bringing Hubbard back to sell them more crappy books that are overpriced. Aquino was involved in the Roswell crash, allegedly. So that's interesting. I've never heard that. So I'll have to look into that. But one thing I do know is that Michael Aquino is in charge of, let's see if I can. So Michael Aquino, I'll just read this real quick. Michael Aquino is, or was, sorry, he's allegedly passed on. Michael Aquino was in charge of the Western Quadrant of the United States of America for MK Ultra. John Brennan was in charge of the Eastern Quadrant. Just a couple of the MK Ultra programs that they were in charge of was Project Looking Glass, Project Star Wars, Project Voice of God, and Aerodynamic, just to name a couple of things. So one of why this is kind of relevant, let's see, where is it? So one of the locations that people are trained at to learn the MK Ultra stuff. So if you're going to be at the level that Michael Aquino is or was, and like John Brennan would be at, I mean, there's several places here. I'll just read a list of U.S. facilities. So let's see, clams. Wait, no, that's in Australia. Let's see, Disneyland is actually a place, but Area 51, Nevada. So Nellis Air Force Base. These sorts of places are always the places that they take people to train them in these sorts of really creepy and unethical mind control operations. So yeah, I never heard that he was involved in the Roswell crash, but he was definitely trained in a lot of these places, and I know he's visited Area 51 many times. Let's see. I just ordered the Phoenix program yesterday. Awesome. That's actually one book I still need to get. I have an ass load of Phoenix program documents, real documents that came from the program. And this is something I've covered before on the channel, but we need to get back to it, especially before we start getting too deep into program to kill stuff, because the whole theory behind program to kill is that it was the Phoenix program that came home. So we need to review the Phoenix program. We need to go through it and deep dive it, read about the accounts. There's all sorts of things. So maybe we'll do that tomorrow, because that's kind of the basis of a lot of this stuff, especially MK Ultra too. That ties into a lot of this. So, oh, you found a hardcover. Wow. That's incredible. For $20. Good for you. What a hell of a find. Anyways, let's get back to this article. So prior to his death, Spires, I assume Spears, texted his mother to say, "If anything happens to me, investigate," just days before his mysterious death. He was ruled to have died of natural causes despite no post-mortem examination being carried out on his body. How the hell could that happen? That doesn't make sense at all. So he died of natural causes, but yet you have no way to prove that because you didn't do an examination. So, okay. Okay, and nobody's going to ask questions about that? Let's see. Yeah, he's a handsome guy. His poor mother, Max's mother, Vanessa Bates, who said he was exposing who was dangerous in the world of government and the entertainment world. Yes, this can be a dangerous job. It can. Mother shares suspicion of conspiracy theorist son's death.
What was Max involved in? What was his line of work or interest?
Always very difficult to describe, but it was to do with conspiracy theories.
Oh shit. Have you heard of the Promise software? Of course I have. Danny Casolaro. His story is absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. And yeah, so I've definitely heard of the Promise software. We'll get that. We'll get to that in our and Inslaw. Yeah, that whole story is fucking wild. For anyone who doesn't know, there's a documentary on Netflix if you want to go watch it. And sorry if you guys can hear that that plane. I live close to a military base, well, sort of close. And they have been super active at nighttime for some reason. I don't know what the hell's going on. Lots of transport vehicles or transport airplanes. Typically, it's the fighter jets that fly at night when they're going to do training missions out in the West Desert. But it's been it's been transport lately. So I don't know what the hell they're bringing in or taking out. Anyways, there's a documentary on Netflix. It's called the Octopus Conspiracy, I believe, and it goes through the whole thing. Now, it is a documentary with kind of a limited hangout, right? They tried to shit on Danny Casolaro at the end, just like Netflix does with most of these documentaries, but it does give you a good sense of kind of the story you're working with. So I do recommend at least watching it. So get this, the company that was bootlegging Promise was called Systematics Inc. Guess where their headquarters were? Mena, freaking Arkansas. Get the fuck out of here, Uncle Ted. Get the fuck out of here. That's where Systematics Inc. was. Wow. Just ordered Dark Alliance a few days ago too. Hell yeah. Gary Webb. I think I'm gonna end up doing a Gary Webb episode. Man, he's a hero of mine, honestly. He's definitely a hero of mine. So for anyone who doesn't know, Mena, Arkansas. Well, first of all, it's Arkansas. So, anybody following the West Memphis 3 stuff, there you go. But also, Mena is one of the locations, one of the airports in which, U.S. Air or Air America. Air America was the airline that was owned by the CIA. This is where they were flying in drugs, weapons, and children. And they were also flying out of there as well. And this was also at the time when Bill Clinton was governor. And this is speaking of Dark Alliance, this is actually what Gary Webb was exposing. So the crack epidemic of the 1980s, this is where a lot of that cocaine that got turned into crack was flown into, was Mena, Arkansas. So it's a big deal. Mena is no joke. Kind of a scary town. OKC happened April 10th, or April 10 days before May. They concluded the Promise investigation. Right, I did know that. Vince Foster law firm represented Systematics. And who was president during OKC? Bill Clinton. Also president during Ruby Ridge and Waco. So, that's interesting. Wait, no, was he during Ruby Ridge or was that George Bush? I don't know. Either way, I mean, Mena, Arkansas was used during Jimmy Carter. Yeah, Mena was used during Jimmy Carter, George Bush, and Bill Clinton. So 3 separate presidents. So yeah, that's right. George Bush was president just under Waco. Also, Oklahoma City bombing, and plenty of the West Memphis 3, all sorts of other sorts of horrible incidents. Clinton was the Arkansas governor, yeah, for a long time. Anyways, let's get back to this video of this poor gentleman's mother.
Believing that the world was not told the truth and seeking for people to come together under the name of love, but he was certainly exposing people who he thought were dangerous in the world of government, the entertainment world.
And that had led him to go to Poland. And you're concerned about what happened to him there, where he died.
Yes.
What were the circumstances of that?
He didn't know the Polish people at all. He'd always known the people he'd dealt with in the past. These people seemed to be involved in some very, very dark and dangerous areas of the world. And I was afraid that as he was gaining popularity and fame, that perhaps somebody would want him out of the way, i.e. not alive any longer.
And I think he sent you a text, didn't he? Which indicated that he had some concerns.
Yes.
What did that text say, roughly?
That text said exactly, "Your boy's in trouble." And I was in touch with Max every single day for most of his life.
When you say your boy, he was referring to himself.
Yes.
But he also said something on the lines, if anything happened to him.
Yes. If anything happens to me, make sure you make full inquiries.
Now, since his death, you...
Wasn't Bush director of the CIA at one point? Yes. Yes, he was. For quite a while as well. This was also after... so he joined the CIA before Kennedy was assassinated. And people, there's definitely a connection to Bush and the Kennedy assassination. If I remember correctly, Bush is one of the only people in almost in the entire country that has no clue where he was that day. In fact, there's a very famous quote of him saying that you know, he has no recollection of where he was the day Kennedy was killed. But people have tracked him down and found out where he was, and it's all very suspicious. So, but yeah, he was director of the CIA. And why, honestly, any American ever thought that it was a good idea to elect a former CIA director to be president? I don't know. I don't know why anyone ever thought that was a good idea.
You have asked for an investigation into his cause of death because you weren't happy with what the Polish authorities had discovered or had concluded.
The Polish authorities simply concluded he died of natural causes. I have had nothing else at all from the Polish authorities other than that. They are in fact suggesting, as of yesterday, that they can't release any more than that to me because they haven't got his written permission to tell me.
And what are you waiting for now?
I'm waiting for a post-mortem that was done in England within a week of him dying. I got him back here. I have had absolutely nothing whatsoever on that, so I have no idea of what's caused his death.
And what are your fears? You feel that he's met some foul end?
Yes, I believe somebody's killed him.
I mean, why wouldn't he have met some foul? And just those 2 messages to his mom, I can't imagine he's lying to his mom that, first of all, your boy is in trouble. That's suspicious as all hell. And also, you know, the other text message, I forgot exactly what she said it was. Where was it? I think this is kind of important. Well, we'll just finish this. But the fact that he was even suspicious of this in the first place. I mean, and he's telling his mom about this, telling her to investigate anything that would go wrong. It was not him. So,
and really, the key to that might be the result of the post-mortem.
It may be a key. It could be a beginning. It'll certainly be a help. If there isn't everything that I want that comes out of that post-mortem, then I will do a second post-mortem, because I think there is much more to be uncovered.
His self-confidence, his self-esteem just...
Okay, that's not the same thing here. So let's yeah, it's a good-looking guy. You know, that's unfortunate. Max Spears, 39, was found dead on a sofa. Let's see. Okay, so this is the conference that he was allegedly at. See, I don't. Oh, okay, so it was a film festival, I guess. I don't know. That's weird. That is weird. Let's see.
So all the textbooks and all the history books are then written and so that we all collectively believe this particular thing. So then when we all believe it, we all manifest a reality that's based on these books.
Yes.
That's very sneaky and a very clever way to do it, because how do we know the textbooks they're not. The wars are written by the winners, aren't they?
Boy, would
I don't
he?
know what I'm going to call this. It looks a bit to me.
Boy, would he have freaked out if he would have known that all the books were written by Robert Maxwell? Man, I mean, would have confirmed a lot for him, I'm sure. You know, it's really unfortunate. So now it has emerged that Spears was inquiring about allegations of widespread sexual abuse against children that was committed at a military base in California by employees acting under the influence of a satanic cult. In 1987, the U.S. Army demolished a daycare center at its Presidio base in Northern California, just 1 year after as many as 60 children were sexually abused there, according to the Associated Press. In fact, we're going to pull that up. So they didn't just demolish it. I mean, it was demolished because somebody set fire to it. So it wasn't just, like they set, or they just demolished it because, I mean, it was demolished because literally the building was set on fire. So, there's that. Let's see here. One civilian employee at the center, Gary Willard Hambright, was indicted for molesting 10 children, though charges against him were ultimately dropped. Yeah, all of them were dropped. One U.S. Army officer at the base, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, was alleged to have taken part in the abuse, according to the San Jose Mercury News. Aquino was known as the self-confessed founder of a satanic movement known as the Temple of Set. Despite rumors of his involvement and police investigation, he was never charged. In subsequent investigations, it was determined that a number of children exhibited signs of being victimized, including 4 who had contracted sexually transmitted diseases. So they only knew of 4 officially, San Jose Mercury News was Gary Webb, and he was working there at the time this case broke. So he probably did some work on this, I assume. So as far as the 4 children who had contracted sexually transmitted diseases, my guess is that there was far more than just 4. The problem was the judge would not let the parents test further. So they did the 4, but for some reason, the judge, well, actually, there's a very clear reason why. When we get into the Presidio, because I will do probably 2 episodes on the Presidio case, there's a whole lot to this. It's a very complicated case. The judge was tied to some very powerful and influential people, which is one of the reasons why nothing ever came of it. Go figure. But as far as the 4, there were, if I remember correctly, there were actually more kids. I think there were 6 or 8. The 4 were only proven like exclusively. The other ones the judge dismissed, and so those were never accounted for in the official record. And then also, out of all the kids, I mean, there were 60 officially, I believe, but I mean, there were a lot more coming out. They were just 60 at the time. The judge refused the prosecution to allow them to get their kids tested. So, and I mean, this is damning. This is way damning, in my opinion. How are these kids ending up with these sexually transmitted diseases? I mean, what is a logical explanation for that outside of them being molested? I mean, I don't think there is one. Spears was looking into the Presidio affair and Aquino's role, which he believed to be part of a larger underground movement that entailed ritual sexual abuse of children in San Francisco in the late 1980s, according to the UK Daily Express. Let's see, we'll pull that up as well. Doesn't look okay. Let's see. Let's keep going. Shortly before his death, Spears told Polish YouTube channel, okay, I am not even going to pretend to pronounce this. I know I have Polish blood in me somewhere, I believe, but yeah, I'm already bad at pronouncing certain words anyways. Not going to try that one. So he told this YouTube channel that he was digging into the story and that his life may be in danger as a result. His mother, Vanessa Bates, also feared for his life. She said his dark investigations into UFOs and government cover-ups may have made him enemies who wanted him dead, claims Bates at 63. Max was also known as a super soldier by his followers and those in the conspiracy and supernatural community. In a chilling a super soldier, what the hell does he, or what the hell do they mean by that? I mean, was Max himself a victim of MK Ultra? Was he programmed? Huh. I'm going to have to dig into him and see if there's any more information about like his background. In a chilling text message to Vanessa just days before his death, Max wrote, "Your boy's in trouble. If anything happens to me, investigate." In one of his final social media messages, he wrote, in a reply to a friend who asked how he was, I'm good. I'm just way too tired. Originally from Canterbury, Max was a former classmate with the actor Orlando Bloom. What the hell? That is odd. Huh. Vanessa said in a recent interview that Max was exposing who was dangerous in the world of government and the entertainment world. He lived in America for a few years, but had returned to the city to stay with his mother before jetting off to Poland. Max had been working with science fiction writer uh, Madeline Namaro and Monica Duval, who he is also believed to had been staying with whilst in Poland, whilst in prison, whilst in Poland. Vanessa said he was making a name for himself in the world of conspiracy theorists, and he had been invited to speak at a conference in Poland in July. He was staying with a woman who he had not known for long, and she told me how she found him dead on the sofa. Well, that's kind of suspicious. But I want to think Max was digging in some dark places, and I fear that somebody wanted him dead. It's possible. It's also very possible, I don't know, maybe this chick that he didn't know that well gave him some bad drugs, or, I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead here. I'm just, throwing some alternatives out there. It's just saying it is possible, although I tend to believe this theory far more. But you never know. But I think Max made a career out of investigating UFO sightings and alleged cover-ups. More recently, he was said to be probing into the lives of well-known figures in politics, business, and entertainment. Vanessa, speaking to KMTV about his time in Poland, added, "These people seem to be involved in some very, very dark and dangerous areas of the world, and I was afraid that he was gaining popularity and fame, that perhaps somebody would want him out of the way, i.e., not alive any longer." His unexplained death and subsequent treatment by the authorities have left many online followers convinced he was killed by government agents. That's not necessarily true. I mean, it could have been a member of the Temple of Set, could have been anybody, could have been all sorts of people. So it doesn't necessarily mean it was state agents. Also, I'm at the point, it's like, what did he come across? What was he doing? Why was he pissing these people off is my thing. Conspiracy theorists have long been convinced that UFO chasers who get too close to the truth are bumped off by secret services or so-called men in black. On one website, Project Camelot, a blogger wrote, "The entire circumstances are suspicious, and I urge everyone to encourage the release of details about what really happened and call for an autopsy." Another, Craig Hewlett, added, "If it wasn't true what he talks about, then why would they kill him? Healthy people don't just get sick and die, they get poisoned." Vanessa, who works as an English teacher, also accepts the theories. She said, "Max was a really fit man who was in good health, and yet he apparently just died suddenly on a sofa. All I have is a death certificate from the Polish authorities that it was from natural causes, but no post-mortem was done. So how can they tell that?" That's incredibly suspicious to me. Exactly. How could they tell what happened if they did not perform an autopsy? They are also refusing to release any paperwork about it to me because, absurdly, I don't have his written permission. I mean, she is his next of kin. So I don't know how the laws in Poland work, but I can't imagine that they are that different. To have that sort of legal standard is absurd. That is absurd. Max worked with the supernatural and conspiracy theory group Bases Project and was due to appear at a conference held Wiltshire in August. Miles Johnson, part of the project and friend of Max's, said in an interview with Project Camelot, "A person has died here, and I don't think it's good enough that somebody who just took normal medication should end up vomiting, spewing black liquid, whatever it was, and then shortly after that, whatever length of time it was, died." A message on the Bases Project website reads, "Max was a good friend to many of us, and he will be greatly missed. Please show your respects for him, refraining from gossip and allowing his family and close friends to deal with their loss in peace. Rest in peace, Max." Max was buried in Canterbury Cemetery after his mother arranged to have his body flown home a week after his death. A post-mortem examination was carried out by a pathologist in Kent, but Vanessa says that more than 2 months later, she still does not know the result or whether there will be an inquest. She added, apparently, he had not suffered any obvious physical injuries, but he could have been slowly poisoned, which is why the results of toxicology tests from his post-mortem are so important. He has a brother, Josh, and sister Becky, who are both devastated, as are his 2 boys. We all want answers to this, and I will continue to fight to get the truth. The Northeast Kent coroner's office would only confirm the death was at the very early stages of the investigation. A GoFundMe donation site was started last week to raise funds to pay for a headstone and memorial service for their friends. The author of the page said the fund was set up on behalf of Vanessa and his family. The statement on the site reads, "Max was loved and will be missed by many, so we are giving people the opportunity to donate to this fund to pay for a memorial service and headstone. If you are able to attend the service, a date will be set once the fund target has been reached, as a lot of Max's family were not able to attend his burial. This is also an opportunity for them to come and pay their respects as well." Let's see. Scary. It's disgusting that people had to be afraid to seek truth and justice. Once again, enter X-Files theme song here. Yeah, I agree.
So all the textbooks.
Yeah, it's the same one. Yeah, this story is incredibly fascinating to me. I wish there was more. Let's see. Take a screenshot real quick. Let's see. Max and Aquino. Okay. So this doesn't really have much of anything to do with Aquino other than the fact that he was investigating the Presidio case. So, and that's not to say that this doesn't matter. I think it does, which is why I read it. Let's see, hold on one sec. Let's see. But like I said, this isn't really about Aquino. So we are going to switch gears a little bit, and we are going to watch a quick video. This is from Flesh Simulator. For anyone who doesn't know who he is, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, scandals, Satanist, and psychological warfare. So we're going to get into him. Phenomenal video producer. He also is a musical artist. He's a DJ. He creates some really funky, really weird music. Something I really get a kick out of. But we are going to return to this Max Spears case after I have had the ability to come in and investigate it a bit more, maybe dig through whatever is left of his social media, that sort of stuff. But yes, rest in peace, Max. One of many people who have been taken out, I assume, from trying to find the truth. So, but on that note, we'll come back to it. And here is Flesh Simulator talking about Michael Aquino.
Here's a brain teaser for you. What do these three things have in common? Theistic Satanists, the Army's Psychological Warfare Division.
Can you guys hear it? Is there sound on this? Just want to make sure before we get too deep into this. All right. Juggernaut says, sounds good. Okay, I'll play it.
And the people running one of the worst and widest ranging child exploitation rings in the history of the country. They're all Tool fans? Nope. This guy, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino.
Okay. I gotta play that again. That's hilarious. I am also not a Tool fan. I'm not even gonna get into that as of now, but maybe later.
What do these three things have in common? Theistic Satanists, the Army's Psychological Warfare Division, and the people running one of the worst and widest ranging child exploitation rings in the history of the country. They're all Tool fans? Nope. This guy, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino.
Oh, that's so funny.
So this is a topic that I've had requested a couple times, and I've been struggling to figure out how to distill the topic into a cohesive video. So delving into this topic is sort of like getting asked for a plot summary of Metal Gear Solid, where it's just like, shit, okay, how much time do you have? So instead, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this into a multi-part series, covering all the connections and sub-connections through a video structure of assembling one of those Pepe Sylvia, like, red string cork boards. So to begin, let's go back to the 1960s. Let's start with the man himself, Michael Aquino, a highly decorated military officer, a satanic priest. He confirms this, and alleged prolific child abuser. He does not confirm this. More on those second 2 points later. During the Vietnam War, he spent multiple years involved in clandestine operations, highly likely and generally assumed to be as a part of the Phoenix program, although this has never officially been confirmed on the record. The Phoenix program, largely considered both a precursor to modern psychological warfare as well as a dick move. The Phoenix program was an operation that primarily involved torturing people. For information.
So Scott says demons are other dimensional and interdimensional entities, therefore technically alien. Yeah, I mean, I guess extraterrestrials by definition. The reason I wouldn't call them that, though, and the reason I would stick with just alien would be because, or the reason I would stick with demon is what I mean, is largely because of what is conjured in people's minds when you say alien. So yes, I agree. Technically, we're kind of splitting hairs here. Interdimensional beings. Yes, I agree. I do believe demons are wholeheartedly real, and demons actually are, if anything, aliens. So if aliens in any form do exist, they are demons. I completely agree with that. Demons are other dimensional and interdimensional. Yeah, so therefore technically alien. Yes, I will agree with that. Although I will just still call them demons.
To send a message, to scare people, keep them in a state of distrust and paranoia. Additionally, it also developed psychological warfare techniques to demoralize the Viet Cong, including the infamous spooky ghost voices telling you to surrender in Vietnamese tape that we played loud as shit from airplanes flying around at night. The methods developed here will later...
Yes. So one of the things that they developed in Vietnam, particularly with the psychological warfare aspect of it, was one of the things they would do would be playing the sounds of ghosts from, let's see, they would play it from loudspeakers. That's what it was. It was Operation Wandering Soul. In case anyone is curious, this will be something we cover when we cover the Phoenix program. Sorry, I'm having kind of a slow day today, man. It's just, I don't know. I'm not on the top of my game as far as my mental capacity today. Anyways, let's see here. We're actually going to pop on over. Whoa, no. We're going to do this. So, this is Operation Wandering Soul. This is ghost tape number 10. This is the actual tape that was being played over the loudspeakers. Now, over in Vietnam, the Vietnamese are a very superstitious people. So this is why it was working. Is that they would play the sounds of ghosts over the loudspeakers that would tell them to go home, drop their weapons, all these other types of messages that were being sent. And it was fairly effective because they were so superstitious. But this is a form of psychological warfare, right? This is actually pretty hardcore because this scared the hell out of these soldiers. So the video says the following is a recording of the Wandering Soul, or ghost tape number 10, used during the Vietnam War. It was used in psychological operations against the communist North Vietnam. It supposedly plays a voice of a dead Viet Cong wandering aimlessly through the night. With the Vietnamese belief that their unburied dead's soul will wander forever in pain and suffering. Right, I forgot about that part. So, one of the downsides to the Vietnamese not being able to bury their dead, which is one reason why we would leave the Viet Cong soldiers in really terrible positions. Like, we'd set them up on pikes and we would do all sorts of terrible things. We'll get into that for the Phoenix episode. But yeah, we would do all sorts of things, or we would even take their bodies. That way, the soldiers could never be accounted for. They could never be buried. And therefore, pushing that psychological warfare, making the Vietnamese believe that the unburied dead's souls were wandering, what is it, halfway between resting and not, purgatory, so that their souls would basically be stuck in purgatory, which by the Vietnamese belief, does cause the soul pain and misery. Okay, so here is the actual tape, or the sound of the tape itself. I mean, this is just horrible. This is god awful. So, for people who don't know, this is like the sound of a ghost wandering through the forest, but also with Vietnamese funeral music kind of distorted. I mean, it is just awful listening to it through this. I can't even imagine. I mean, you're in a combat zone. You are trained to just basically kill anything on sight. You're walking around. God, it could be after a rainstorm, during a rainstorm, for all you know. It could be quiet, for all you know. But you're out in the jungle. You're on edge. The Vietnamese and U.S. Forces, both sides use drugs. So you could be high as shit. And you're walking through the jungle, or you're posted up. And you hear this being played over a loudspeaker. I mean, it's going to screw people up no matter what. So. Yeah, so they used special Howard Hughes silent helicopters. It is true. A lot of the military equipment that they used at the time was like way, way advanced. These helicopters flying the loudspeakers around could fly virtually silent. Now, they aren't 100% silent, but I mean, you're not gonna hear them. You're just not. So yeah, it's incredibly, incredibly odd. Demons are spirits, not beings. Yes and no. I don't know if I completely 100% agree with that. You are right. They are spirits, not beings. I mean, they're definitely not human. But a being, I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. Demons are fake and gay. Yes, 100% demons are fake and gay. Excuses for people's shitty narcissist behaviors. See, I disagree with that. As far as being fake and gay, I think they're fake and gay, but I don't actually believe that they are fake and do not exist. I mean, to believe that, I mean, I don't know where you are religiously, Uncle Ted. I wholeheartedly believe in demons. I don't know if you've ever come across or met somebody who is genuinely evil like that. And now, as far as excuses for people's shitty narcissist behaviors, yeah, I agree. But to blow it off as just like people are just narcissists, no, I can't agree with that. I can't get behind that at all. All that shit, and we still fucking lost Vietnam. Yeah, right. Well, we were always going to lose Vietnam. First of all, we never should have been over there in the first place. No matter what, like we were going to lose that battle. However, I do think it does show the strength of what a guerrilla fighting force can actually get done. Um, it does show the effectiveness of guerrilla warfare. Um, Vietnamese are some hard mofos for sure. Please don't say we when referring to the rogue U.S. government. Try empire instead. I mean, first of all, I'm going to say whatever I want to say, but if I'm going to point to something specific, I'm going to say state. I'll even say government, but I will say we because we are U.S. citizens, and unfortunately, we do have some culpability to the rogue U.S. government. So we actually can do things to stop them, but that's a political conversation for another day. I'd argue winning Vietnam wasn't the actual goal of the United States involvement. 100%. None of it was. First of all, this was a drug war. This was all about drug territory. And I mean, there was a lot of other sub goals too. Some of it was actually getting rid of some of the surplus, the military surplus that we had. So they wanted to get rid of old gear. They wanted to produce new gear, which the best way to train your new gear is to do it during war. I mean, there was a lot of reasons, but yeah, winning Vietnam and saving, the North from the communists, that was a cover story, 100%. So I'll back this up a little bit so I can read some of it. But right now, some of the echoing sounds are recorded Vietnamese actually going through and saying things. This is allegedly what the ghost would be saying. So things like, "Daddy, Daddy, come home with me. Come home, Daddy, Daddy." Obviously, the voice of a child. Who is that? Who is calling my name? My daughter? My wife? Your father is back home with you, my daughter. Your husband is back home with you, my wife, but my body is gone. I am dead, my family. Tragic, how tragic. My friends, I come back to let you know that I am dead. I am dead. So, I mean, these are the types of things that are being said in Vietnamese. This is allegedly the ghost, right? It was a senseless death. How senseless. How senseless. But when I realized the truth, it was too late. Too late. Friends, while you were still alive, there is still a chance that you can be reunited with your loved ones. Do you hear what I say? So, I mean, they're literally giving them this message, drop your rifles, return home, give up. You don't want to be killed for this senseless war. I mean, so this is what we're doing. And now this right here is absolutely one of the things that Michael Aquino was responsible for. This is one of his large accomplishments was this ghost tape number 10. Now, there was lots of other tapes that were played. In fact, let's see. Let me see if I can find some of the other ones real quick. Not all of them were creepy like this. Let's see. the the whole point to doing this was literally to scare people and to traumatize people. And in fact, you can find evidence of the like old propaganda warfare manuals, um, the psychological warfare manuals and stuff. And I mean, the explicit point in doing certain things like this was literally to traumatize people and to cause such great fear that they left the war. But I mean, they were running they were running propaganda in all sorts of ways. Um, let's see. Here's another example, real quick. So this is Hanoi Hannah. This is a message from allegedly from this woman talking to the GIs. So this is propaganda going in the opposite direction from the Vietnamese to the U.S. soldiers.
GI, your government has abandoned you. They have ordered you to die. GI, do not trust them. Defect, GI. It is a very good idea to leave a sinking ship. They lie to you, GI. You know you cannot win this war. Your rich leaders grow richer while you die in the swamp, GI. They will give you a medal, GI, but only after you are dead. Your government lies to you every day, poor soldier. You have lost this war, GI. Your army will leave you behind. Imperialists make you fight this war, GI. They do not care about you. GI, your government has betrayed you. You will not return for you. GI, your airplanes bomb your own men. You are not safe here.
So, I mean, this is propaganda in the opposite direction, right? And this was definitely played over loudspeakers, but it was also largely played through radio transmissions. So, I mean, there were like pirate radio stations all over the place. This is largely how the GIs got news, was just your standard radio station. The CIA was pumping, coded messages through radio stations and stuff. And so the Viet Cong, the VC, would turn around and run messages like this. And this was also effective. Real quick, Uncle Ted, tell me Aquino with those eyebrows isn't a narcissist. So I think you misunderstood me. I'm not saying that people aren't narcissists, because he was, well, I don't know. I don't know if he was a complete narcissist. I would have to do a little bit more digging, see if there's any actual insight into his mental health. With your overall point, I agree with you. What I'm trying to say is that to write off all evilness in humans as strictly narcissism or psychopathy or sociopathy or any of these mental issues or whatever, I think I think it's factually incorrect. But I also think that you can be a narcissist without being evil. I do agree with you. Aquino was not a good person. I do believe Aquino was genuinely evil. Do I believe that he was possessed? No, I don't. He might have been. I know possession can come and go. demons typically like to stay, but I know that they can go on their own as well. So was he ever possessed? I don't know. Maybe. It is possible. But I do believe that he was just a genuinely evil man. And the thing is good and evil do come from somewhere. So it is an absolute truth. It is an absolute truth that evil does exist, and objective evil exists, and objective good also exists. So I agree with you. I think he was probably a narcissist. Definitely had some issues, but yeah, I just do not agree that you can write off demons as only mental health issues with people. Yeah, demons are definitely very real. I've met only a small handful of people in my life, but I have met genuinely evil people that I guarantee were possessed. Now, I mean, that's I can only say, trust me, bro. So take that for what it is, but it's a whole different thing when you experience it. So
Guys are dangerous, GI. They will napalm you tonight. Your pilots do not care that you are down here, GI. Okay. You cannot dig foxhole too high in, G.I. Joe. Your bombers will fire you.
Your bombers will fire you. I'm going to start saying that. Your bombers will fire you. I believe demons are real, but maybe a fake demon war would be an excuse for a false one world religion. Yeah, but I don't believe that that's exactly what we're experiencing. I do believe that we are genuinely experiencing spiritual warfare. Because here's the thing is evil is manifested through people. So Satan, evil, demons, this is why possession is a thing. Evil and also good. So God, goodness, evil, Satan, all of these things are self-manifested through us, like we're conduits. So it reminds me of that whole there are two wolves inside of you. Which one are you going to feed? As stupid as that is, I mean, it's kind of true. You can choose to be an evil person, or you can choose to be a good person. And the good, God, holiness, these are all things manifested through us, through our actions. This is why, in my personal opinion, this is why hell can exist on earth literally through our actions, but so can heaven. So yeah, I mean, I do agree. A fake demon war would be an excuse for a false one world religion. But I just don't believe that that's what we're experiencing. I do believe that it is genuine spiritual warfare is what we are experiencing. Let's get back to, so now we've kind of shown propaganda from both sides. This is another thing we will get into with the Phoenix episode, because it's some interesting stuff, man. It is wild. But let's get back to Flesh Simulator.
Be rolled into Operation Gladio, a fascist-aligned strategy of tension deployed in communist or former communist countries. This will come into play later on. Foreshadowing. It's kind of a Chekhov's gun thing. Aquino's experience in Vietnam more or less directly led to his later career as basically the father of modern-day psychological warfare, as described in his paper From PSYOP to Mind War, which describes the methods and goals of psychological warfare. That's right. This guy is the person who came up with the term PSYOP. So everything thus far is probably reasonably expected information. Let's move on to the more unexpected side of things. Michael Aquino was a Satanist, being a high-ranking member of Anton LaVey's Church of Satan. Now, to be clear, There is nothing inherently evil or wrong about being a member of the Church of Satan these days, given that it's basically goth atheism. However, in Aquino's case, he was not on board with the comparative lack of literally worshipping Satan, and split off into a theistic satanic sect, the Temple of Set. He formed the Temple of Set with his wife Lilith, who ran a New York coven called the Lilith Grotto. This is her. Side note, pictures of these two together are invariably hilarious. There's a lot of bad things to be said about Michael Aquino, but credit where credit is due. I can't fault him for having a thing for the Goths. Now, on to the third major aspect of him. Wait. So you're telling me that in addition to being the father of modern psychological warfare and coining the term psyop, this dork is also the LeBron James of child abuse? Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. But look at him. Those don't look like the eyebrows of a satanic pedophile. All right, now time to get in.
So I believe somebody mentioned earlier in the chat that they were the eyebrows, that is, were a trait of within his family. Yes, they were, but he also styled these. So this was a fashion choice. Because you can trim those. You can trim those motherfuckers. So even if they grow in like that, it kind of reminds me of Joe Dirt when initially when they're giving his radio interview, and the radio host is saying, so you never thought about cutting your hair, so it just kind of your beard, it kind of just grows in all white trashy like that. That's just kind of what I think of. It's like, so your eyebrows, they just kind of grow in all evil like that, and you choose to keep it.
Those don't look like the eyebrows of a satanic pedophile. All right, now time to get into the much darker side of the video. There is extensive documentation of the details of the abuses alleged, most of which I will be omitting unless the details are specifically relevant. This is for a number of reasons, not the least of which being that it's like gross and weird to luridly describe the details of horrific crimes against children.
It's our favorite person over here at the Rise to Liberty channel. Also, our favorite resident spook, our channel. Gulf of Tonkin alleged incident actually did happen. See Warren Carroll book, 70 Years of Communist Revolution. I mean, what do you mean by actually happened? All sorts of things can actually happen that actually never take place in real life. Was there an incident? Yeah, it was something that took place on paper. I'll agree with that. But did an incident actually happen? Most likely not.
Assure you, however, that they were not fans. The Presidio scandal. In 1986, allegations of sexual abuse were raised against teacher and Baptist minister Reverend Gary Hambright, who taught at the Presidio Child Development Center at the Presidio base in San Francisco. Upon finding significant physical and psychological evidence of abuse amongst children in Hambright's class, including at least 5 of whom had contracted chlamydia, the children were later questioned and mentioned being taken out of the classroom into a private residence, where they were also abused by 2 other adults who they...
Mind you, this is also very consistent with the stories of other ritual abuse survivors. So these stories that these kids told are also very similar and on track with other stories from other survivors. So there is that. So keep that in mind. Also, once again, how would a kid legitimately come down with a sexually transmitted disease if they were not molested? What is a genuinely good explanation for that? Because in my opinion, I do not believe that there is one.
called Mikey and Shamby. The kids had a
Yes, this is an important thing to note about the Presidio case. The kids noted that the two who were in charge of molesting them were named Mikey and Shamby. These were the nicknames of the people who molested the children.
Used by two other adults who they called Mikey and Shamby. The kids had a consistent description of the house as having a dark interior filled with all kinds of satanic stuff, as well as a soundproof room with soft material lining the walls. Additionally, when driven around the area, multiple victims separately identified the same house as the one that they'd been taken to. Now, who are the owners of the house? Now, this might surprise you.
So, I agree. Art of the personal story. The STD thing alone, that should have just shut everything down and shut everybody up who denied it. I agree 100%. And, you know, the thing is this comes up in almost all of the cases, in any of the large cases. So this comes up in the McMartin case a lot, like a lot. There were over 380 children that came forward in the McMartin case, and hundreds of them came down with STDs. And for some reason, the defense were saying things like, oh, the kids are lying, the doctors are lying. I mean, I can't even get into that right now but yes, the STD thing comes up a lot. There were a couple of these daycare abuse cases down in Miami during the 80s and 90s. There was several of them up in Canada. There was some in New Jersey. In fact, I think, there is a New Jersey satanic ritual abuse case unfolding right now, a new one, or newer, unfolding in New Jersey right now, but it's not a daycare. But you can look at all the daycare scandals, and they all pop up with these STD cases.
But Michael and Lilith Aquino. Shocking. Now, where did Aquino work at the time? The Presidio base. The cop.
I think Flesh Simulator actually explains the connection with the judge in this. I could be wrong, but I think he explains, like, when I was mentioning that the judge is connected to powerful people and everything, I think he brings it up in this.
It's got a search warrant, searched the house, and dark interior, lots of satanic crap, padded room, tons of video cameras and equipment, all checks out. So this seems pretty bad, right? You know, presumably he gets prosecuted. He does not get prosecuted. A fact that Aquino maintains proves his innocence. There were several setbacks to the investigation, including a pair of fires about 3 weeks.
Okay. This goes for almost anything. Just because you didn't get prosecuted, that doesn't mean you're innocent. There are tons of reasons why you could be guilty and not be prosecuted. So the lack of a prosecution is, in my opinion, not lack of guilt.
Weeks apart that destroyed Hambright's classroom in the development center, as well as one in the administrative building next door where Aquino worked, in which a number of unnamed records and documents were destroyed. Now, despite the Army's insistence that these two fires were accidents and unrelated, the ATF was adamant in their reports that the fires were arson. Yep, that's right, I said the ATF. Do you have any idea how evil and or willfully bureaucratic you have to be to make the ATF look like the reasonable ones? Aquino claims the positive chlamydia tests are inconclusive. Fires about 3 weeks apart that destroyed the warrant, searched the house, and dark interior, lots of satanic crap.
Yes, so the children who came forward first in the investigation, particularly the very first victim, came forward, was a young girl. She and many of these other children were able to accurately describe the interior, the layout, and the decor of Michael Aquino's home. a place in which they should have never been in. And you're trying to tell me that these kids are just the best guessers in the world? How are they able to understand the layout, the colors, the decor, everything about the inside of Michael Aquino's home if they had never been there? And if they had been there, what the hell are they doing there? Riddle me that.
Yep. Padded room, tons of video cameras and equipment, all checks out. So this seems pretty bad, right? Presumably he gets prosecuted. He does not get prosecuted. A fact that Aquino maintains proves his innocence. There were several setbacks to the investigation, including a pair of fires about 3 weeks apart that destroyed Hambright's classroom in the development center, as well as one in the administrative building next door where Aquino worked, in which a number of unnamed records and documents were destroyed. Now, despite the Army's insistence that these two fires were accidents and unrelated, the ATF was adamant in their reports that the fires were arson. Yep, that's right, I said the ATF. Do you have any idea how evil and or willfully bureaucratic you have to be to make the ATF look like the reasonable ones? Aquino claims the positive chlamydia tests are inconclusive because they were only preliminary positives and were somehow misplaced and then disappeared before a full lab result sheet could be recorded. All right, so why was he not prosecuted? To answer that, we have to do a quick run-through of a different kitty diddling scandal that he was implicated in. The Franklin scandal from the last episode. All right, here's the spark notes. In Paul Bonacci's testimony against...
okay, this is speculation, but if you're innocent of diddling kitties, if you are not a fan of the playground, why would you repeatedly pop up in stories of, or the investigation of, multiple child sex trafficking rings? Why would you keep popping up if you're innocent? Does that mean you're automatically guilty? No, it does not. But innocent people don't keep popping up in multiple investigations or multiple witness statements, multiple victim statements. You don't keep popping up.
Lawrence King. He identified Aquino only as the Colonel, but was able to pick him out of a lineup and described him as the ringleader as well as King's direct superior. Lawrence King's photographer, Rusty Nelson, identified Aquino as the man he had seen King hand over suitcases full of cash to. King had reportedly told Nelson that Aquino had been involved in the Iran-Contra drugs for guns affair. Now, Gary Webb, of Being Murdered for pointing out the CIA's connection to the crack epidemic fame, and strangely, also a reporter for the same newspaper that initially broke the Presidio story, the San Jose Mercury News, brought up this guy, Joe Ruscianello, as an involved party in the Iran-Contra thing.
Yes, this is what I was talking about. This is one of the largest reasons why the Presidio case was not actually tried. So, Joe Ruscianello. Remember that name.
The same scandal that multiple other witnesses implicated Aquino as being involved in as well. So, how does this all relate? Well, the question that we were asking was, why was Aquino not prosecuted for the Presidio thing? Well, let's look at who the San Francisco DA was at the time. This guy, Joe Ruscianello. He was the U.S. Attorney for the Northern California District, and he was the person who declined to prosecute Aquino on federal charges. So, that might have something to do with it. Alrighty, this video has gotten long and convoluted enough as it is, so this feels like a good stopping point. If you guys like the stuff I've been covering recently...
So Joe Ruscianello happens to be in charge of this federal district, which is where they would have been. They would have went to federal court. Joe Ruscianello is implicated in the Iran-Contra scandal. And he's the one that decides whether Aquino is going to be charged or not. Interesting.
Let me know. I'm happy to keep doing it. Anyways, like and subscribe.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. Let's see here. Okay, so at this point, this is who Michael Aquino is. Let's see. Okay, we are going to. Our tax dollars just kept employing him. Yeah, totally. I mean, he stayed in for a long time. He made the Army a career. You know, that was his thing. So let's see. Trying to make sure I have the right thing pulled up. Is this it? This is kind of a long article. I don't know if we have time to do this today. We might get into some of this. Okay. Let's see. Hold on. Give me just one sec. There was something else I was going to pull up. It was another video. Damn it. Where is it? Okay. So like I said, why, if you are innocent, right? Why do you keep popping up in these investigations? You know? Seems odd. Seems like if you were truly innocent, you wouldn't keep popping up. But then again, I forgot. This is a witch hunt, right? And he's a big old scary eyebrow guy. So, you know, it makes sense why he would keep getting targeted, because it's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt. You know, we're just picking on poor little Mikey. We're just picking on poor little Mikey Aquino. He didn't do nothing. He didn't do nothing. Okay, here's one of. Let's see here. Okay, here is one of the documentaries that we're going to go through probably a little bit better, but I want to go through some of it tonight. Let's see here. So this is In the Name of Satan, year 1990. This was a VHS release. So this was one of those straight to VHS releases. There was a lot of these back in the 90s and late 80s. Partially, some of them are really good, some of them are really bad. This one's so-so. But there's some important points to kind of bring up through this. So let's start diving into some of it.
People were chained, they were beaten, they were stuck, cut, they were bled, and they would give themselves freely for this.
I remember just constant, absolute terror, and I can't explain how intense, how strong, how all-encompassing that terror is. Unless you do this, you're going to get killed. You're going to die.
I watched them take the lives of children. I watched them take the life of my twin brother.
They didn't deserve to live, you know? They begged by their actions to be killed.
This is inhuman. It's absolutely inhuman.
Wow, that is super graphic. I apologize for that. I kind of forgot how intense this was. So I'm going to stop that right there for just a second. We're still going to go through it. However, once again, I apologize. So, trigger warning for anybody. Man, sometimes some of this old stuff is like way more intense than I ever remember it being. So if this is something that you're, a little too sensitive with, or, something that might be triggering, please, I mean, just go ahead and skip this, throw it on mute. You can come back or whatever. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. This could possibly be triggering to some. Once again, I apologize. I should have said something before I started playing this, but that's on me. I'll make a note of that in the future to do that when there's any potentially upsetting material in the future. However, we're going to keep playing at least some of this. So trigger warning, trigger warning. Here we go.
I myself would like to go and crawl back into a corner and say this doesn't happen.
People simply don't
My God.
believe that this.
My God, maybe we actually will skip this. Let's see. There is one thing regarding Michael Aquino. Let's see. I was just getting it pulled up in the background. So, in fact, actually, there is one thing I do want to mention about some of this more graphic, more intense stuff. So, I've kind of argued, like, how is some of the best way to take some of this? Well, and here's what we were going to get into with Michael Aquino. The reality of this stuff is not very pretty. It's just not. There is a lot of intense realities with this. I respect all of you enough to not hide the truth from you. The truth is the whole point of this series. It's the whole reason I want to talk about this. And unfortunately, some of this is going to get graphic at times in some of these episodes. So it is up to you as individuals and as free thinking, intelligent adults to be able to decide what you can and cannot handle. I am going to discuss things that I think are important, because what I am trying to do with this series is tear apart this propaganda piece by piece. Now, some of this is a little bit more just sensational and stuff like that, but we're going to have to make through some of it anyways. But I'm leaving it up to you, the viewers. These are the things that I think that you can handle. But like I said, I will make a note. That's my bad. I should have mentioned something before I started playing this. And I will be doing that more so in the future as well. I will definitely be a lot better about that. Like I said, I've been kind of off today mentally, not there. Normally I would do something like that, but yeah, so there will be times when shit's going to get intense. This is an intense topic, so you can only expect so much. So on that note, let's see. I think we can handle it. We know it's not fun and totally disgusting, but it's important not to turn away. I agree. I completely agree. My point is that I just want to let people know when something shocking is coming, because it's not for everybody, and I understand that. So that's really what I'm trying to say here. So did somebody complain about something you played? No. I'm just aware that this could be triggering to some, especially if there are any survivors that watch this. which is, why I'm bringing it up. So just throwing that out there. It's just something that I, as a content producer, need to be aware of. That's all. So I'm just throwing that out there. But what we are going to get into right this very second is not going to necessarily be brutal. It is a dialogue with the devil by David McGowan. But before we get out of here, we are going to start going through some of this in the Name of Satan VHS tape. So before we start playing that again, I will give the appropriate warning. So let's see here. So I've already seen, heard, read too much. There's no turning back for me. I kind of agree. I'm younger than a lot of my audience, and I grew up. I was a young man in the early 2000s, and at that time, there were these websites. They were gore websites, and they were all the rage amongst kids my age. The internet was the wild, wild west at that point, and I've seen enough cartel beheading videos and certain things, all sorts of like gross out competitions and all sorts of things like that. I am super desensitized to a lot of this stuff. It's not something I'm necessarily proud of. I'm definitely not bragging about it, but I kind of agree with this. I've seen, read, and heard a lot. I'm super desensitized, but I know not everyone's going to be. So, nobody complained. I'm just trying to do my due diligence and just be, the best content creator I possibly can. So, appreciate the warning. You're a good guy. Hey, don't you dare tell anybody that. Just kidding. Thank you. Yeah, just trying to be sensitive to some people, just trying to, like I said, do my due diligence. That's all. So you are the best content creator. Thank you. I deeply appreciate the compliment. I deeply appreciate that. So now over to this, a dialogue with the devil. This is one of my favorite things ever regarding Aquino. This is, well, I'll just read the description. So on August 29th, 2001, this journalist received an email correspondence from a certain Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, informing me, me being Dave McGowan, that he was none too pleased with the Pettyocracy series of articles. Go figure. The following is a complete text of the message that I received, interspersed with my response in red to the points that Aquino attempts to make. This posting will serve as an open response, so to speak, to Aquino's correspondence. None of Aquino's comments have been edited and are presented here exactly as received, including the typos, misspellings. I think that's so funny. So, for anyone that doesn't exactly understand, this is David McGowan. He is displaying these emails that he had received directly from Michael Aquino. At the time, David McGowan was only writing on his website, just blog posts. So he hadn't released Program to Kill yet, and he hadn't released Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon yet. But he was writing what the article series that would later become part 1 of Program to Kill. And it's called the Pettyocracy. Pettyocracy. This is one of the words I can't stand. Pettyocracy. Anyways, Aquino apparently got a hold of this. Somebody sent it to him, I'm sure, and Aquino was pissed. Go figure. So he tried to intimidate Dave McGowan, and well, Dave wasn't having any part of it. So I'm gonna read through some of this quite quickly so we can get through it. So, subject pedophacy part 3. Date Wednesday 29th of August 2001. From Aquino's email address for anyone wishing to send him their own response. I wonder if this is still an active email. For anyone who wants to try, go for it. Dave, this is also an inactive email, obviously. Rest in peace, Dave. So Michael Aquino goes on to say, Dear Mr. McGowan, he's such a fucking nerd. Not because of the deer thing. He's just a fucking nerd. I have just been alerted to your pedophacy series by Mr. Robert Sterling, the conformist. If the purpose of your writings and website is, as you suggest, to expose the truth and not to perpetuate lies, then you're continuing to promote satanic ritual abuse falsehoods concerning my wife and myself is irresponsible and hypocritical. Let's see. So Dave McGowan's response. So that this little thing, that's it. It's just irresponsible to be pushing satanic ritual abuse falsehoods. So Dave McGowan wrote back and said, to the contrary, what is responsible is for the media, largely owned and controlled by the intelligence apparatus to which you have dedicated your life, to consistently ignore and deny the evidence of widespread and absolutely loathsome abuse of children. As part 1 of my series abundantly documents, there is, in fact, a massive body of photographic evidence verifying that children all across the country and around the world have been sexually abused, tortured, and even killed for the depraved enjoyment and financial gain of persons probably not unlike yourself. Damn, Dave. He's just straight calling him on it. Oh, man. Dave is just, I love Dave. I really do. Rest in peace, honestly. Just wow. Just calling Michael Aquino as it is right at the beginning. Michael Aquino writes back, we have never harmed any children, anywhere, anytime, and have abundantly and aggressively exploded scam artists, fabrications, to the contrary for years. Dave McGowan. If you are insinuating that I am a scam artist, as you appear to be, I invite you to present any evidence to support that charge. I would point out that the term genuinely refers to someone who is peddling knowingly false information for personal gain. These articles had been posted and distributed as a public service. I have been paid nothing to make this information available. Indeed, unlike yourself, I have nothing to gain by becoming involved in this issue and a considerable amount to lose. Michael Aquino. Certainly, the least you could have done was to contact and ask me about any questions in your mind on the subject, which I regret you didn't have the integrity to do. Dave McGowan. You have absolutely no moral ground to stand on whatsoever to be passing judgment on my integrity. Michael Aquino. Append below is the truth concerning the Presidio scam. Dave McGowan. I find it very telling that you would choose to insert asterisks on either side of the word truth. A Freudian slip, perhaps? Michael Aquino. Which, as an avowed opponent of government illegal illegalities and cover-ups, you should find as disgraceful as I did. Everything I say here is a matter of public record, and I have sworn it under oath as necessary. Dave McGowan. Every day in courtrooms across America, thousands of people swear under oath to tell the truth and then proceed to lie when it serves their self-interest to do so. Michael Aquino, please consider whether it is accordingly not indeed the decent thing for you to do to remove mention of my wife's and my name from your pedophacy piece, both on your site, Sterling's, and whatever else you have, or wherever else you have circulated it. Dave McGowan, I find it rather amazing that you feel yourself qualified to offer an opinion on what the decent thing to do is. Your shamelessness apparently knows no bounds. Michael Aquino. Sincerely, Michael Aquino. Dave McGowan. You will forgive me if I doubt your sincerity. Oh, yes. Michael Aquino. The 1986 through 87 Presidio Satanic Ritual Abuse Events. Following the publication of the Recovered Memories of Satanic Ritual Abuse book, Michelle remembers, in 1980, the United States and other Anglo-American countries went through a decade of SRA, or Satanic Ritual Abuse, scares and witch hunts. After the 1984 McMartin preschool became internationally publicized in one such scare, daycare facilities generally became targets of the SRA witch hunt. You guys are panicked. You're panicked. We're all panicking. Dave McGowan, you haven't gotten through the first paragraph of your rebuttal, and already you're peddling deliberate disinformation. Here you have identified the McMartin preschool case as a witch hunt. How then do you explain the existence of the tunnels beneath the school that were uncovered and documented by a highly reputable archaeological team? How do you explain the untimely deaths of 3 individuals connected to the case just before they were to have their day in court? How do you explain the fact that nearly 500 kids of all different ages all reported being abused at the school? How do you account for the fact that the jury hearing the case overwhelmingly believed that the kids were in fact severely abused, but were unable to affix the blame for that abuse? How do you account for the fact that Virginia McMartin's own granddaughter believed that her kids were abused at the school? You do not account for these things because, quite simply, you cannot. You merely label it a witch hunt without offering a shred of evidence to support that point of view. I happen to grow up in a city just adjacent to Manhattan Beach, where my parents were both public school teachers. As such, they had numerous friends and associates who were fellow teachers and other child care professionals, school nurses, counselors, psychologists, etc. These people, and thousands more like them around the country, had to deal with the fallout from the McMartin and Presidio operations and countless others. They had to help rebuild the shattered lives. They had to try, as best they could, to repair the damage and clean up the fucking mess that your people left behind. The McMartin case was a witch hunt? I hardly think so. Oof. Oh, Dave. God bless you for doing such a thing. This is a thing right here that I wanted to point out. So he states in here, you merely label it a witch hunt without offering a shred of evidence to support that point of view. Well, this is one massive thing that nobody ever does. So anyone that claims witch hunt, where is the evidence of a witch hunt? A witch hunt implies that there is actually no that there is no evidence, or that there is no, well, I guess just that there is no evidence that could point to anybody, that they are simply making it up. But that's not the case. The case with Presidio, the case with all of this, with the McMartin preschool case, all of this, the deal with it is that there were actual cases and evidence, or there was actual evidence to show that somebody was guilty of something, because these children showed up with signs of abuse, including STDs. That doesn't happen out of nowhere. That doesn't happen for no reason. Period. It just doesn't. Now, here's one thing I want to bring up, and we're going to talk about this a lot. We're going to talk about this a lot. Okay? Here is one of my favorite things in the world to share. Sorry, just bringing it up properly. This is one of my favorite things in the world to share. Boom! The archaeological investigations of the McMartin preschool site, Manhattan Beach, California. Boom, boom. Let's get it as big as we possibly can. Boom, one more. One more. We can get it in there. Right there. Look at that. Archaeological investigations of the McMartin preschool site, Manhattan Beach, California, by E. Gary Stickle, PhD. Now, this is one of the versions that has nothing to do with Ted Gunderson. Isn't that interesting? So the executive summary. During the month of May 1990, an archaeological project was conducted at the McMartin preschool site to determine once and for all whether or not there had been tunnels under the building as described by various children. Excavation was carried out according to established scientific conventions, with careful research design defining what might prove or disprove the existence of an underground feature that would connect to the surface of the site and extend underground for some distance, with dimensions large enough to accommodate adult human movement through it. The project unearthed not one, but two tunnel complexes, as well as previously unrecognized structural features which defied logical explanation. Both tunnel complexes conformed to locations and functional descriptions established by the children's reports. One had been described as providing undetected access to an adjacent building on the east. The other provided outside access under the west wall of the building and contained within it an enlarged cavernous artifact corresponding to children's descriptions of a secret room. Both the contour signature of the walls and the nature of recovered artifacts indicated that the tunnels had been dug by hand under the concrete slab floor after the construction of the building. Whatever the purpose of this elaborate enterprise, even more effort must be devoted to filling the tunnels back in and trying to conceal any evidence of their existence. Much of the fill dirt used for packing the tunnel spaces was mixed with historic debris as if to mimic the surrounding terrain. Not only did the discovered features fulfill the research pre-qualifications as tunnels designed for human traffic, there were also no alternative or natural explanation for the presence of such features. Fucking boom. Boom. Okay. Let's just jump to findings real quick. Oh, let's see. Sorry about that. Okay. Hypothesis, findings. Okay. So one thing that was found down there. Okay. So this is not going to bore you guys, at least in this episode, with a bunch of this is what they found, this is what they didn't find. A plastic sandwich bag was found under the foundation at a depth of 42 inches below the surface and 3 through 6 inches inside the wall line of the building. The bag was imprinted with Disney characters and words C, copyright, I assume, 1982 Walt Disney Productions, along with the logo of a schoolhouse with Disney class of 1982-1983 underneath. These factors led Dr. Michael to include, or Michelle, Michael, I'm not sure, to conclude, quote, therefore, the cavity could be no older than 1983. Due to the crucial location and dating of the Disney bag as evidence of recent disturbance, alternative hypotheses were examined. Could the bag have been artifactual, not of a clandestine buried tunnel, but rather incidental to the parents' March 1985 dig, or to the subsequent SRS excavation commissioned by the district attorney? After careful analysis of the parameters of each excavation, Dr. Langenwalter, senior author of the SRS study, concluded that since the parents' backhoe trench was no less than 137 inches from the northwest corner, it is clear the plastic Disney bag was located by Hobbs in the virgin area between the SRS excavation and the parents' dig. In fact, it was recovered 7 inches south of the parameters of the SRS excavation and approximately 13 inches north of the parents' backhoe trench. Okay, so, I mean, this is legit, is what I'm trying to explain with this. Okay, so this is not just some Joe Blow, nobody out there digging with the shovel. They brought in actual people to be able to prove this. And guess what? They found the tunnels. They found the fucking tunnels. And that's the funny thing is that these people who claim innocence, of all of these people who claim that it's just satanic panic, they never, ever bring in evidence to show or to prove that this was simply satanic panic, that it was a witch hunt. They never do. So when Dave right here brings up, you merely label it a witch hunt without offering a shred of evidence to support that point of view, because it's true. Because it's true. He can't. He can't offer anything other than that because there is no evidence to support the witch hunt narrative. Period. So Michael Aquino replies, the epidemic extended to U.S. military services as well, including 15 U.S. Army daycare centers and elementary schools by 1987. In late 1986, it was the turn of the Presidio of San Francisco. On 9/28/86, the San Francisco Examiner began a series of 8 front-page stories sensationalizing the witch hunts. There he goes again. Approximately a month later, one set of Presidio parents claimed that their son might have been anally raped by one of the daycare teachers, Gary Hambright, and the scare was off and running, with scores of children being abused diagnosed by a play therapist, despite not a single published confirmation of actual physical harm to any child. Oh my God, this man is not only in denial, but he's such a piece of shit. Oh, he's such a piece of shit. Hambright denied any abusing, whatever, and all of the other teachers and staff supported him. Yeah, because they were probably doing it too, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, oh my God. Okay, so Dave McGowan. I will assume that when you say play therapist, which, yeah, what is that term? A play therapist? What do you mean? I will assume that when you say play therapist, you mean therapist that was not fully co-opted by the people that you work for. As for there being no published confirmation of abuse, I would note that, as my article references, the case was written up in a highly respected medical journal that was subject to peer review. Damn. As in other witch hunts, it made no difference. Over the next year, Hambright was suspected, indicted, charges dropped, re-indicted, charges re-dropped amidst a massive media frenzy. Parents rushed to file over $84 million in claims, as was also routine in such witch hunts. The previous year, a similar highly publicized witch hunt at West Point had resulted in $110 million in claims. Dave McGowan again. The truth is, as my article also points out, that the state acknowledged in open court that kids had in fact been abused at the West Point Child Development Center. How exactly does that qualify as a witch hunt? Boom, that's a great question. So once again, the truth is, as my article points out, that the state acknowledged in open court that kids had in fact been abused at the West Point Child Development Center. How exactly does that qualify as a witch hunt? Michael Aquino. Left out of the Presidio claims bonanza were Christian chaplain Larry Adams Thompson and his wife Michelle, who had never reported their daughter Kinsey Almond for any physical or psychological symptoms during the entire time she had been under Hambright's supervision at the daycare center, 9/1 through 10/31/86. In their original 187, I imagine July 87 FBI interviews, both ATs were specific about that date window because Almond turned 3 on 9/1/86, and as confirmed by the Presidio Director of Personnel and Community Affairs, Hambright supervised only children age 3 and older, despite Almond's untouched state. My God, the way he even wrote that, despite her untouched state, Oh, you so did this. On 3/12/87, Presidio doctors examined her and pronounced her virgin free from any physical signs of abuse, or pronounced her a virgin free of any physical signs of abuse. The ATs placed her in an intensive 8-month program of play therapy. The same therapist who pronounced the scores of other children abused soon pronounced Allman abused as well. Dave McGowan. There is little doubt that some of the Presidio doctors were complicit in the operation and the cover up, and are therefore no more credible than you. Michael Aquino. The ATs, however, were not content with just accusing Hambright. In, I assume, June 87, Michelle introduced SRA themes and insinuations about me, who had been a topic of controversy and gossip as a famous Satanist throughout my 1981 through 1986 assignment at the Presidio headquarters to the therapist. Then, on 8/13/83, the ATs saw my wife Lilith and myself at the Presidio's post exchange and went running to the witch hunt investigators, alleging that Allman had accused us of kidnapping and raping her while she was under Hambright's supervision. They then climbed on board the financial bandwagon with a $3 million claim of their own based on their faked story. This quickly resulted in an even more sensationalistic international media storm. Dave McGowan. The truth is that the media in this case, as in virtually every other case of this nature, spent most of its time and energy attempting to downplay the charges and discredit the child victims / witnesses and their parents. Michael Aquino. The San Francisco police verified that Lilith and I had been 3,000 miles away in Washington, D.C., where I was on duty every single day. Almond was at the daycare center 9/1 through 10/31/86 and closed the case with no charges accordingly. Dave McGowan. I think we are all adults here, and as such, we are well aware that the federal government has it within its power to alter documents to protect one of its own. In fact, it happens all the time. Michael Aquino. In October 1988, however, I appeared as a panelist on the Geraldo Rivera Halloween special. Rivera was trying to aggravate and escalate the SRA witch hunt mania, and I was speaking out against it. Dave McGowan. Well, if you said it on the Geraldo show, then it certainly must be true. Michael Aquino. The broadcast came to the attention of Senator Jesse Helms, who became enraged that Lieutenant Colonel in the Army should dare to hold a satanic religion. As Freedom of Information Act filings later revealed, Helms then secretly contacted his close personal friend, Secretary of the Army John Marsh, and insisted that Marsh devise some way to destroy my career. Dave McGowan. The notion that Helms, who himself has deep and long-standing ties to the intelligence community, would take offense to you is a fundamentally preposterous notion. Helms has been around the block a time or two and is well aware that the intelligence services are brimming with all manner of human refuse, including ex parte Nazis, organized crime figures, assassins, Latin American death squad leaders, torture aficionados, and more than a few Satanists. Michael Aquino. I don't know if I'm going to read this entire thing because I think we all know it's just a load of bullshit. I will provide this for anyone who does want to go read the whole thing. But I mean, just look at this wall of text. It's like, you know, the whole joke, like the left can't meme. They can't. And I mean, just look at that. Like, look at all of this. He's just like, well, check this out and look at this and look at this. We'll go through some of it though. So, Michael Aquino, as my 20-year military record was without blemish. Okay. In 1987, I was the sole USAR officer in the nation, selected to attend the prestigious National Defense University, ICAF. The only way to act on Helm's demand was to try to receive the chaplain's scheme to threaten Lilith and myself, apparently expecting that without sufficient intimidation by the Army Criminal Investigation Division, the CID, I would resign and disappear. It didn't work. The CID, first, January 1989, illegally forced a full-time active duty board to deny me a new full-time contract on expiration of my current one in September 1990. 6 months later, after a sham reinvestigation, it issued a report titling Lilith and myself for the chaplain's allegations. Titling is a statement by the CID, blah, blah, blah. Nevertheless, the report itself contained not a single item of evidence other than the AT's allegations that any crime whatsoever had occurred, and either suppressed or ignored abundant evidence of our innocence at the AT's violations. Okay, yeah, sure. But here's the thing. He tried to expunge his military record, try to get all of this wiped after this report came out. There were this reinvestigation and everything. They wiped Lilith's name from the official record. They refused to wipe Aquino's name. They absolutely refused. So basically, I mean, he's just, by administrative complaint process in 1991, we were able to have the SRA titling of Lilith removed. See, right there. The CID refused to remove mine. Although the ATs had always alleged we did the SRA together, because to do so would have exploded the entire CID operation and opened a trail of serious law violations leading to Helms and Secretary of the Army Marsh. I next filed suit in federal court in 1990 to have the rest of the CID report exposed and retracted. The U.S. Privacy Act would have forced a comparison of every CID statement in the report with the actual facts. So the case was filed as motion. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to go through all of this. So the bottom line was that on one hand, the politically driven black bag job to intimidate me out of the Army had failed, and indeed could not withstand many other decent and honorable offices and officials in the same Army who, as they learned about the scheme, refused to aid, abet, or tolerate it. This included every single senior officer in my own chain of command throughout all of the years of the initial attack against us and the subsequent investigations. On the other hand, we have come to realize that it was politically out of the question that the Christian chaplain be court-martialed for crimes committed against a Satanist and his wife, or that trails of illegal actions leading to powerful national political figures would be followed. And we also learned that the courts we're also not about to force exposure such a widespread and potentially politically explosive cover-up as this one. He's such a piece of shit. Dave McGowan. And to think that people label me a conspiracy theorist. If I am reading this correctly, which is not an easy thing to do considering the severely convoluted logic, then you are claiming to be a victim of a vast right-wing conspiracy. Oh, that kind of seems like it, because right here, I mean, he's saying for crimes committed by Satan and blah, 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 blah. And we also learned that the courts were also not about to force exposure such a widespread and potentially politically explosive cover-up as this one. Let's see. If you retire alive in Aquino's line of work, you were powerful as fuck. Yeah, no kidding. Do you know who the major was McVeigh kept referring about? Not off the top of my head. So Dave McGowan continues. If I am reading this correctly, which is not an easy thing to do, considering the severely convoluted logic, then you are claiming to be the victim of a vast right-wing conspiracy involving one of the most powerful senators in the country, the Secretary of the Army, the Army CID, a district court judge, an appeals court, the Army Inspector General, the Judge Advocate General, the Army Chief of Staff, and numerous other low-level players, all working together for no larger purpose than to destroy you personally. That is his claim. That's wild. And here I was thinking that what was really going on was a concerted effort to protect you so as not to expose a government-sanctioned operation to torture and abuse children. Of course, only some crazed conspiracy theorists would believe that sort of a scenario. Your version is obviously so much more credible. Michael Aquino. On the expiration of my full-time active duty contract in 1990, I continued as a part-time active USAR officer for the next 4 years, assigned to headquarters. I decided to retire in 94, blah, blah, blah. Most people will find it sufficient, I think, that Lilith and I were never charged with anything after 2 long investigations, that I retained my TS plus clearance, top secret plus clearance, and that I retired honorably in 1994. My officer efficiency reports from the time of the attack on us to my 1994 retirement also continued to give me the highest possible evaluations in all categories. He's such a fucking nerd. Dave McGowan. You seem to want it both ways. First, you spin some long-winded and ludicrous tale of your persecution by the powers that be, and then, almost in the same breath, trumpet the numerous honors bestowed upon you by those very same powers, while attempting to vindicate yourself by noting that no charges were ever filed against you. So which is it? Quite frankly, I fail to see how you can seriously contend that you were persecuted when, as in fact the case, no charges were ever filed against you, despite the testimony of numerous witnesses, not only from the Presidio, but from elsewhere around the country as well. Michael Aquino, my military service and present Army retired status are public record and can be independently verified by anyone wishing to make the trouble. Okay, what does that have to do with anything? Dave McGowan. As far as I know, no one has disputed that you have a military service record. Right, exactly. A record that includes time spent in Vietnam as a psychological warfare operative, which quite likely means that you were part of the Phoenix program. For the uninitiated, Phoenix was a program concerned with the illegal torture of and assassination of as many as 40,000 Vietnamese men, women, and children. Michael Aquino. Nor is the 1990 lawsuit in any sense a skeleton in my closet. A review of my attorney's district and appeals belief and orals will glaringly expose what was actually taking place, a covert or court cover-up of blatant Centaurial sect army CID misconduct, and simultaneously brushing aside of numerous illegal actions against an army officer and his wife of a politically incorrect religion. Michael Aquino, an easy allegation to make, though there is nothing beyond your word to indicate that there is any substance to this charge. Michael Aquino, PhD. Here follows an additional comment of mine concerning the original abuse allegations at the Presidio of San Francisco. Hambright was originally indicted 1286 on the basis of allegations made by the Tobin parents, which kicked off the Presidio witch hunt. This indictment was dismissed 387 on the grounds of hearsay. Dave McGowan. It's rather interesting that in your earlier accounting of the case, you made no mention of the name Tobin and strongly implied that the entire witch hunt was instigated by Chaplain Larry Adams Thompson, thereby allowing you to cast the entire investigation as some kind of religious persecution. The truth is, this isn't about religion, it's about pedophilia. Damn. Michael Aquino, just more, hopefully you guys can see the pattern in this. He just keeps going on and on. And he didn't say anything about the Tobins initially, of their son, blah, blah, blah. No news article that I have ever read indicated that there was a shred of physical evidence showing that any child at the Presidio had been sexually abused in connections with the scam. I say news article because I was not privy to investigators' records on the Hambright allegations and can verify only what I read in the media. Okay. We're almost done here, but let's see. So the only evidence against Hambright thus consisted of parental hearsay allegations and the allegations of therapist, quote unquote, Debbie Hickey, the Army psychiatrist who conducted the play therapy indoctrination sessions for the children once the scam got underway. Dave McGowan, if you don't count the testimony of 60 children witnesses, though it is inevitably denied in such cases, children on average are at least as credible, if not more so, than adult witnesses. And then, of course, there is the medical evidence and the psychological symptoms of abuse, which you also choose to deny. Parents of some of the children have stated that investigators didn't bother talking to them after their children's abuse was medically confirmed, as my article also makes note of. Michael Aquino. I'm getting tired. We're going to wrap up after this, but Michael Aquino, Michael Aquino. Later on, after Lilith and I had been attacked by Chaplain Adams Thompson, I met with Hambright's public defenders in their San Francisco office to see what documents they might provide which would help us. During the meeting, which occurred after the second droppings of all charges against Hambright, I bluntly asked the two lawyers if there were any actual evidence, not just accusations, that Hambright had committed any abuse abuse crime, whatever. They both said none at all. They didn't say no comment or we can't discuss that. Dave McGowan, the fact that his defense attorneys protested his innocence proves absolutely nothing. They wouldn't be doing their job were they to do otherwise. Among all the hollow arguments you have presented thus far, this is perhaps the most suspicious of them all. Michael Aquino, to me, the ultimate proof that no Hambright abuse was committed is the timeline. According to the Chronicle story quoted above, Hambright was ultimately accused of sexual attacks of up to 60 children during the period May 85 through November 86, when the Tobins made their allegations and started the witch hunt against him. It is possible that 60 children, 3 through 6 years old, the only age group in Hambright's daycare classes, could have been raped and sodomized for a year and a half before the Tobins made their allegations, and not a single parent noticed anything wrong with any child, either physically or behaviorally, during that year and a half, ? Let's see. So these last two entries are Dave McGowan, and it looks like that's the end of it. And then we'll wrap up with that. So not only is it possible, it actually happens all the time. As any reputable therapist working in the field can attest, that is, one who isn't co-opted by your people, such as the liars at False Memory Syndrome Foundation and Vocal, children who have been subjected to the type of unfathomable abuse that these kids reported need to be removed from that environment for a considerable period of time before they feel comfortable revealing the depravities that have been inflicted on them. As I'm sure you know, children who have been repeatedly threatened with death and who have been told repeatedly that their parents and other loved ones will be killed, and who have had those warnings reinforced by being forced to witness and participate in the killing of others, become quite adept to hiding their abuse from their parents and other family members. We assume that none of the parents ever took any child to the Presidio Hospital for any such problem during that time. Otherwise, symptoms of sexual abuse would have started an investigation right then. No one noticed anything, the slightest bit wrong with any child until after the Tobins had started the whole accusation/therapy show on the road. These are the basic facts I know about the Hambright allegations. On 1/6/90, the Chronicle stated that Hambright had died 11/8/89 of AIDS. This seems to be the sad final chapter in the story, said Nancy Clarence, one of 2 federal public defenders who represented Hambright in the child molestation case. Gary died with a clear conscience. It's just too bad that he had to spend the final 2 years of his life battling these baseless charges. Dave McGowan, the final entry into this. You will forgive me if I fail to shed a tear for the deeply departed Hambright, whose death was kind of timely, don't you think? We all know that under our system of jurisprudence, one is assumed to be innocent until proven guilty. The unfortunate truth, though, is that we live in a world where people like you are protected. So there is virtually no chance that the numerous charges made against you will ever be given a fair and just hearing. When faced with such a situation, we, the people, have no choice but to render our own verdict after taking into account the full weight of the evidence on both sides. Having undertaken such a review, I have come to the inescapable conclusion that you are guilty as charged beyond what I would consider to be a reasonable doubt. There is nothing in your rebuttal argument that would lead me to reconsider that verdict. Bam. Dave McGowan for the win. And apparently Michael Aquino never said anything about that. So I am going to post this in the chat. Boom. So there it is. I think we're going to get out of here on that note. That's enough for the evening. I wanted to do more, but it's getting late. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to another episode of Rise to Liberty. We will be doing a show tomorrow. So make sure and be here for that. It will be at normal time, 5:30 p.m. Mountain, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure and tune in for that. Tomorrow, we will not be covering Satanic Panic stuff. I think we are going to be hitting a different subject for tomorrow. I have a couple of things in mind, but either way, make sure and show up for that. So that should be a lot of fun. Last thing before we get out of here, make sure and go to the episode description and go to allmylinks.com/rise to liberty, which is where you can find everything. You can find my store. You can find the Substack, Beware the Mockingbird. Pick up all of your merch. Right now, you can still get express shipping on my merch store if you want to pick something up for the holidays. You can go over and donate. I need as much caffeine as possible to keep this running. So go over to Buy Me a Coffee or over to Ko-Fi. Do a one-time donation or a monthly donation. You can also donate straight to PayPal, over to Cash App, or I take BTC. I also take donations in Monero. If you guys would like to do that, head on over to all of my social media. I don't use the Facebook, so don't expect much from there. I'm also on all these different audio platforms, and you can contact me by going to my All My Links site. So there's an email in there, or you can contact me over on X, which is probably the best place. Other than that, I want to thank you all so much once again. I really do this for you. I do this for the victims. I do this for the kids. I do this for the ones that didn't make it and the ones that are still here. So you all make it worth it. And I am proud to all have you as part of my audience. You know, I can't say much more. And honestly, all I got to say about this is there is evil out in the world. Really, really dark, evil things. And I am sick of people pretending like they don't exist and that they don't matter. I am sick of people pretending like this isn't a problem. This is a problem. And this has been a problem. And it's going to continue to be a problem until people like us speak out. I am here to be able to inform you all to the best of my ability to make sure we can go out and counter this evil. So on that note, I think we're going to get out of here. Once again, tune in tomorrow for another episode of Rise to Liberty. And until then, stay free, my friends. And remember, Christ is King.